Should be mirroring. I don't know. You need to unmirror your stuff. Can someone in the AV fix the... There we go. I wasn't, and this has been here though. There we go. All right. All right. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Welcome back, everyone, to our Advent series as we are studying and diving into this concept of Christ emptying himself for our sake. I think the first week we talked about the great love that Christ showed us when he came down unto the earth, even to the point of an embryo, even to the point of a fetus. He emptied himself completely in order to enter into our world and to be able to connect with us. And so, for those of you that are not married, this is also important to understand in case you want to be married one day, or you're looking for a spouse for our younger people, or you're engaged, or you're dating, whatever it may be. This model here is the model that Christ showed us in entering into our world, and this is the model that we need to see in our marriages. And this is the model we need to see because this is the Christ-like way in the way in which we conduct our marriages and live in our marriages. Many of us, in our self-emptying for others, could be motivated by very selfish ambitions. Usually, if I serve others, somebody might say, "Oh, Paul, you're so kind, and you're so loving, and you're so, giving of yourself." And I might receive a lot of praise and self-glory for emptying myself. A lot of us, when you give to the homeless, what do? You feel good about yourself. You may not even care what happens to this person. They could be hit by a car tomorrow. You don't care. What you do care about is you feeling good about yourself. But when you do it in marriage, there's no glory in it because it's expected, right? That what you do in marriage and where you pour out, there is no like, "Oh, thank you, honey. Let's give you a nice clap for your great love that you poured out for me." It's like, yeah, you didn't do that yesterday, and you haven't been doing that for the last 6 months. You need to get on the ball with it, right? And it's this concept of there is no glory in kenosis in marriage. There's a heavenly glory, and there is a glory that works within your heart, which is what we all seek. But this is one of the hardest things to talk about. And you must know about this concept if you are seeking to get married. A lot of us are thinking, okay, when I look at a spouse, he or she, how well off he is, or how pretty she is, or how kind, or how servant-like she is, that I'm looking for this nice young lady to see what she's going to do for me. And that is not how we enter into relationship with God, and that is not how Christ entered into relationship with us. That when Christ entered into relationship with us, it was, what can I give them? What can I do for them? How can I offer them glory? And what do we do with our relationship with God? We say what? How can I offer Him glory? That is the true spiritual life. So we're going to go to the place in which kenosis is spoken about in the scriptures, where it says, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ." Again, I want us to stop for a second. Guys, when we read the scriptures, this word right here, this first line, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ," that is not a small thing. St. Paul is saying, you cannot continue as a believer unless you have the what? The mind of Christ. St. Paul talks about it in 1 Corinthians chapter 2. He says, "Therefore we have the mind of Christ." So before we go any further, are you pursuing the mind of Christ? Is that a goal that you have, that you would think and understand how to think like Christ? You're called to be like Christ. He says, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God, did not consider it robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, taking the form of a bondservant and coming in the likeness of men." This concept, the Greek word of making himself of no reputation, is emptied himself. That is kenosis, that he emptied himself. And so as we go and we think about what Jesus did for us, and I really harped on that a couple weeks ago, and Abuna also, Elijah talked about this also in our relationships, but we're going to get into the aspect of marriage. You see, in marriage, as Christ descended to us, kenosis means leaving the safety of my own perspective and asking, what is it like to be you? What is it like? Now, husbands, how many times a day do you look and you say, what is it like? Why? How do you think like that, right? The men often don't understand the way of thinking of their wife. Like, I don't get it. Sometimes, Sherry will be looking at me like, why don't you understand what I'm trying to tell you? She looks at me straight in the eyes. She says, I made it very clear. I'm describing the situation. I'm telling you how I feel. Why don't you get it? I'm like, I will never understand how it is that you think. And so one of the questions that we need to ask is, what is it like to be you? That in a marriage or in any relationship, what is it like to be in your shoes? Look at what Jesus said. Look at what St. Paul said about Christ. It says, for we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. That Jesus came to be able to relate to us. That it says he was made like his brethren. God wanted to sense you. He wanted to understand you. He wanted to not just sympathize with you, but he wanted to empathize with you. And we're going to talk about what the difference of that is. So as we talk about this, you see, the problem in most marital conflict is not the lack of love. It's not that you don't love your spouse. It's that you don't know how to empathize with your spouse. And we're going to see what that means. You see, empathy is the identification with and understanding of another situation's feelings and motives. Once again, the identifying with another person, understanding their situation, their feelings and motives. How much are you able to do that? We're going to talk about different social approaches to this. Ephesians 5 says this. We're going to talk about what the wives are called to do and what the husbands are called to do. Wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as also Christ is head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, just as the church is subject to Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word. Let's talk about this. Romans 12:15 says, rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. Now, you can't weep with someone unless you're willing to feel what they feel. How many times have you tried to comfort somebody? You went and go and you visited somebody who's grieving something. And the person is weeping and you don't know what to say. And you're kind of just like, I'm so sorry for your loss. And you just like stare at them with a blank face. But then you feel another person that's lost a loved one. And they go in there and they totally understand what that person is feeling. They've entered into that existence or that experience. So we're going to talk about what it means. What is kenosis for a husband? You see, how many times do husbands often try to practice this love to wife? And often what men try to do is they try to fix their wives' problems. How many of us, the wife is telling a story, and she says, honey, let me tell you about my day. And she says, my boss, and he told me this, and then I told him this, and what is the guy thinking? What is the guy thinking? Why didn't you just say this? Or why didn't you just do this? Or how come you didn't react in this way? What is she saying? You don't understand anything, okay? Can't she say, can you just be quiet and stop trying to fix everything? What the wife is looking for is she is not asking her husband to solve the problem. This is like torture for us men, okay? Imagine a woman, she's crying, and she's pouring out her heart, and she's saying all these things, and what he's thinking, okay, I'm going to make your problems go away just like this. Just follow my instructions, and all your problems will go away. For some reason, she doesn't want the problem to go away ever. I don't know why. She doesn't care if the problem goes away. She just wants you to cry next to her. I don't know how many times I'm trying to practice this, and Sherry is pouring out her heart, and I'm like biting my tongue, and I'm like, that sucks, Habibti, I'm sorry. All right, good talk. Let's move on. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Do you want me to fix the problem? I have the perfect solution. This happens to all of us. The woman is saying, I want you to stand inside the problem with me. I want you to stand inside the problem. 1 Peter 3:7 says this. Husbands, likewise, dwell with them with understanding, giving honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel. When we say weaker vessel, St. Peter's talking about the delicate vessel. The delicate, like if you imagine a piece of glass, it's delicate, it's weak, right? You can't just drop it. You have to be very, very careful with this delicate vessel. Giving honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel, as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers may not be hindered. Dwell with them with understanding. Most marital arguments don't start with sin. They start with sentences like, that's not what I meant. Or, husbands, ever try this? Hey, just chill. Or just relax. Does that work for anybody in the room? Any guy ever tell their wife to relax? Okay, it doesn't go well. Okay, you know, men, you're looking at me now, you're like, don't even say it in your sermon. Like you're going to get in trouble, okay? Don't overreact. Stop the drama. Why are you making such a big deal? He doesn't understand me. You see, marriage is not about proving your point. It's about entering into your spouse's reality. And we're going to talk about how to do that when it feels like you've entered into a foreign country. You feel like you've entered into a foreign country and I don't know how to go about this challenge. So what does kenosis for a husband mean? Listening without fixing. We said that. Taking emotions seriously even when they don't make sense to you. Don't try to understand. Say, I'm sensing that you're going through a lot of pain. In my understanding, your problem is this big. Your problem is this big. But clearly it's a lot bigger to you. That how do I enter into, I wonder if God looks at us and he's like, hey, enough with the pity party. Like, just say a prayer. Like, I wonder if God is saying, wow, I want to sympathize with what you're going through. He's like, wait, I created you. I should already know what you feel. But he's saying, I'm not going to know just what you feel. I'm going to enter into your existence. And this is what we really want to try to understand. So when a couple neglects trading places with their spouse, they become literally ignorant of each other. When you neglect trading places with your spouse, as Christ is trying to trade places with us, he enters into our existence so that we might enter into what? His existence, or his divine life. You become ignorant of each other. And what happens? Little by little, you start to spread apart. And this applies to even friendships. That the more you start to become ignorant of each other and you don't want to understand how they are, what happens? You become on two different planets. You're so separated from each other that you get to a point where you say, look, okay, go cry. When you're done crying, come and talk to me. Some of us, we do that. Some of us, we say, okay, when you're finished with this, because I don't understand, you do your thing, and then when you're ready to just live, have a normal afternoon, come talk to me. We do that. We become so ignorant of each other that sometimes you find it happens even in intimacy where the wife is disconnected from the husband. She doesn't want to be intimate with her husband. She doesn't want to connect. And he doesn't understand why. And he's saying, look, we love each other. We want to be close. We want to enjoy this beautiful act that God designed for us. But she's saying, I don't feel connected to you. You don't understand me. You're not able to feel what I feel. You don't know what I'm going through when I spend time with the kids all day, or I'm at work and I'm taking care of a lot of things in the house, and I'm dealing with mommy. And the husband gets in bed and he's like, how are you, honey? What is she thinking? Get off me. She's thinking, do you have any clue what my day was like? Don't be ignorant of who I am. And also, wives, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but having empathy for one another, it really means something serious. To trade places as a husband is to ask these questions. What pressures does she carry silently? What pressures is she carrying silently? There's things in her heart that she's carrying and she can't express herself. Some of it is from my doing. Some of it is from the husband's doing. And she's carrying some things silently and you have no idea. What does she give that is unseen? How many of us really understand? The worst is when, so Sherry wakes up in the morning, and very early every morning, and she makes lunches for 4 kids, okay? So she's waking up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, right? And she's like sometimes my kids are bringing suitcases to, I'm like, what is all this food? Like Sherry, she has a big heart. She wants to give the kids I'm like, Joshua has a buffet for lunch. He's like pulling like chicken and turkey, like he's like, and I'm thinking, and then Sherry's, okay, I'm going to go to liturgy on Wednesday morning. Can you make the sandwiches? Sure. I'm like, why do you wake up so early? I'll wake up at like 20 minutes before. All the women are laughing. The worst decision ever is to not spend even more time doing than your wife would do because it's so hard. I don't know what it's like to get up to do that. And no one's going to say, hey, Mom, thank you for the nice lunch. Any parents hear that? Okay. Sorry, moms. Another thing is what wounds shape her reaction? This is hard. This is a hard one. Some of us have caused wounds in our spouses. Some of us have married our spouses with existing wounds. Maybe the lack of love of a father, or never maybe feelings of rejection, or feelings of low self-worth, or feeling that her body is just an object, so she's wounded. Okay, she's wounded. She has all of these types of painful moments in her heart. And I'm saying, just move on. Let's just start like okay, this happened 15 years ago, get over it. Sometimes we're thinking, we could never say it. You know very well not to say that. But you're thinking it, and you don't know what wounds have shaped her reactions. How many times have you said, I really want to understand what it is that you feel. I'm not going to solve it. Just pour out your heart before me. I want to know what you're going through. And sit and listen. And say, I had no idea. I don't even know what that feels like. I don't know what it means to feel like that. What wounds have shaped her reactions? This is kenosis. Not control and not dominance, but attentive love. I'm giving attention to you. I'm attentive to where you're at. Now let's move on and say, okay, wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is head of the wife, as also Christ is head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body. Kenosis for a wife means submission here is not inferiority. You're not less than him. It is the voluntary self-emptying for the sake of unity. This is a hard one. Because people are always trying to find out, what does this whole submission thing mean? Like, Abuna, clarify. Like, I get this in like premarital. Like, Abuna, can you really define? I want to know what the church fathers really meant about this. Before you go and tell me to submit to him, am I less than him? And sometimes even the man thinks you're supposed to be my servant. No, we're equals. Like the Father and the Son in the Holy Trinity, they're equals. What did the Son do? He surrendered his will to the Father. They're equal. Father, Son are 100% equal. 100% God, fully God. Okay? But the Son surrenders to the will of the Father. To teach us this, it's for the sake of unity, just as Christ submitted himself to the Father. Seeking to understand how her husband experiences pressure, failure. Do you understand also that your husband feels the obligation and the burden of taking care of the whole family? If we're in a famine, the husband is going to go hunting. Husband's going to go and he's going to say, okay, I'm going to go hunting. If I have to go into a forest and kill a rabbit or do whatever, like, I'm going to go do it because that is my response. Do you understand that pressure? When the market is changing, and a husband might be worried about losing his job, especially in the market that we're in right now, do you understand that pressure? You, maybe as the wife, are feeling like, well, it's your responsibility to take care of me. And he's saying, I would love to give you the whole world. I'd love to give you the whole world. But I'm very afraid that I may not be able to do that right now. That's a very painful feeling for your husband. Even if he hasn't lost his job, but maybe there's some worry at work. The responsibility, recognizing that many men express stress through silence, withdrawal, or action rather than words. When your husband is not himself, when your husband is quiet, he comes home from work, he just wants to sit, he wants to scroll, he just wants to watch TV. He's like, honey, can we not talk today? I'm not in the mood to talk. Like, what, honey? I'm just trying to connect. I'm just trying to bond. He's withdrawing. Something is happening in him. And you have to say, I really can't be frustrated with him. I need to find out, what is he going through? Why does he feel this way? Again, like I said, if you're not married, or you're far from being married, maybe you have several years out, understand this about the opposite gender. As you're looking, you want to understand these things, recorded in your minds, okay? Seeing his struggles to provide, to protect, and lead, even when he's imperfect. Often, some of the battles of men, whether they be emotional, not feeling like they're able to express their feelings. You know, a young boy, when he scrapes his knee or he hurts himself and he starts crying, what do they tell him? Boy, be strong. Don't cry. Boys don't cry. And all of a sudden, when we get older, we want to cry, but boys don't cry. And the wife wants her husband to be like a 13-year-old girl, right? She wants, honey, just cry. He can't. He's been taught since he was a little kid not to cry. But he has a lot of emotion inside. So he's not crying like you cry, but he's crying on the inside. He's not shedding tears, and he's not whining, and he's not doing those things. But just like you cry, and he reacts to your cry, how do you react to his inner cry? Are you aware of his inner cry? You might say, okay, well, thank God, maybe my husband, he provides, he's got a good position, he's got money, everything's good, he should be fine. There's so much more with his battles. Struggling maybe for his purity, and struggling to be righteous before God, but he's dealing with battles that he feels like he's fighting. He can't tell you even. He's fighting a war of thoughts, of desires, of temptations. And you're just saying, hey, men are pigs. Men aren't pigs. Maybe this is something he's been exposed to when he was 9. He's a 9-year-old boy. He was exposed. He was introduced to impure things, unclean things as a 9-year-old boy. So, not forgive him, but understand that he has been battling with this. It's been planting in his heart since childhood. And maybe he was pressured into pursuing this impurity even more. Do you understand that even in the environment that he grew up in, what he was battling with? And now he's fighting to be pure, but his heart has been already damaged by everything. Seeing his struggle to provide, to protect, and to lead. So to trade places as a wife is to ask, what fears does he carry that he never names? What fears does he have? Do you know what your husband's fears are? Do you know what your dad's fears are? Maybe you are also blaming your dad for some being unavailable or being emotionally unavailable. And you didn't know that he had fears. That Baba, who was supposed to be like our like wall of our pillar of iron, okay, he's got fears. He didn't know what he was, especially if he immigrated. He's in a new country. If he loses the job that he's kind of been secure in, I don't know if anyone's going to take me in the next company. It's not like I'm competing against all the people that were born here and the young students. That's a lot of pressure. What expectations weigh on him? What expectations weigh on him? And what does respect sound like to him not just to me. This is important. What does respect sound like to him? How many homes are dealing with this feeling of feeling disrespected? You're saying, look, I don't insult you. I don't do anything, that puts you down. Yeah, but do you understand the way your tone is very disrespectful? Sometimes it might sound like my nagging mom. Like, here I am, the protector of this home. I'm trying to kill myself to provide for this home. I'm trying to do everything and take care of you and the kids. As well as, like the wife, she's doing so much for the kids. So is the husband, but in a different way. What does respect sound like to you? Have you ever asked that to your husband? What does respect sound like to you? It doesn't matter what you think it is. It matters how his ears hear it. If his ears see in some complete, you could be stomping all over him, adding more pressure, adding more guilt, adding more shame, adding more fear. And I didn't know. I was just being normal. I always talk about what is honor in the Bible. How do we honor our priests? How do we honor our bishop? When we take a bishop, we honor him. We show him the honor that he is our shepherd. He's caring for the flock, that we give him a special honor. That when the Bible talks about this honor and respect, it doesn't mean that we don't honor the wife, because there's other places in the Bible that says honoring the wife that we just read in 1 Peter 3. Okay, there's still honor, but the man has this need for this honor. This is kenosis, not erasing oneself, but choosing compassion over judgment. Okay? Women choosing compassion over judgment. What does St. John Chrysostom say? A wife who respects her husband strengthens him. A wife who belittles him breaks his courage. Take a picture of this. If your husband can't be the man that he's supposed to be, and you have expectations for him, and you're putting pressure, and why don't you do this, and why don't you do this, and why don't you do that, and why don't you do this, and you say what? You can strengthen him or you can break him. If your husband is broken, it doesn't necessarily mean it's your fault, but you're not building him up. And you were called. What was Eve's role in when she was created? To be what? His helpmate. To support him, to elevate, to help him accomplish this role that he has, to have dominion over all of creation. She's there to help him get to that spot. Empathy means becoming more skilled at reading one another. It's being more skilled at reading one another. We're going to talk about 4 social styles. The first one is the sympathizer. More feeling than thinking. So everybody has a social style that they interact with the other. I want us to understand these social styles. It says, actually, there was a study that says, research shows 90% of the time, issues will disappear if we see our conflicts from our spouse's shoes. And so when you understand this, we're going to see how it is that you're dealing with your spouse and where you're falling short. Sympathizers, people who jump to conclusions. These are people who look at the world through the lens of their own personal experiences. What does that mean? Well, I went through this, and you must be feeling this, right? That because I went through this, and this is how I felt, you must, and I'm jumping to conclusions that this is how you're feeling. Without trying to really understand, a sympathizer is jumping to conclusions. You're protecting your feelings, or you're projecting your feelings onto your spouse before analyzing the situation. You're thinking that their feelings are supposed to match the way that you felt, okay? They're a different person. If it's husband and wife, they're a different creature. They're a different creature. And so be careful if you are one of these, the sympathizer. When a wife looks at her own husband, she often assumes her emotions are shared by him, even if they're not. That, like, sometimes Sherry will be like, oh, you don't feel like, did you feel the same way? And I'm like, nope, I didn't feel it at all. She's like, but like our poor kids, and I don't feel like I look at it more logically. Next one is the personalizer. What is a personalizer? This person is usually imprisoned by fear in the relationship. This style causes them to withdraw and retreat in order to avoid potential pain. What does that mean? You're doing something, you're going through something, and all of a sudden they're personalizing your issue on themselves. Oh, this must mean that you're angry at me. This must mean that you don't love me. This means that I've changed in your eyes. And they're like, this has nothing to do with you. I'm just talking about a situation and how I felt. A lot of us deal with this. This personalizing thing is, I am trying to say, because I'm trying to avoid pain, I'm listening to your issue and I'm avoiding pain, and so I'm kind of withdrawing and retreating because I'm finding myself in your story. You know, when a wife says, oh, there was a man who did this, and he said this on the at work, and and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, you think that of me. She said, I didn't say anything about you. I didn't even mention your name. This has nothing to do with you. But he's doing what? He's personalizing it. Their lens of life is so distorted by previous experiences that they can never see life from their partner's view. I can't, because I myself have such a distorted previous experience. These people's struggles are so heavy that they prevent them from entering their partner's shoes. Then there's the analyzer. These are not people that empathize, but they psychologize, okay? Oh, you must be bipolar. Or you must, like we start like, oh, this is what it means. And so here I am, I'm trying to diagnose them. Doesn't attempt to really know what's going on, but to accurately see the situation from another's view. Be careful of this. Everybody today is a psychologist. Everybody gets it. You're like, oh yeah, I've been married for 6 months. I get it now. Okay. You're like, you don't know nothing. You don't know nothing. You haven't seen nothing yet. Okay. Are you an analyzer? Oh yeah, you're going through this. This is what it means. No, it's not. Be careful of this person. You're probably feeling rejected into this situation because it brings you back to your childhood. That you're saying, oh, this is what it is. Oh yeah, the psych majors, right? Undergrad psych majors. They've taken Psychology 101, okay? They got to define the word psychology, and now they are, like, be careful of this. Empathize doesn't impose its own diagnosis. They mean very well, but they analyze too much. You're not listening. You're not trying to be there with me. Then the final social one is the empathizer. This is where analyzing and sympathizing meet. Putting yourself into each other's shoes with your head and your heart. A deep emotional attunement that is tempered by an objective. There was a Sesame Street cartoon where Miss Piggy went to go kiss the frog thinking it would turn him into a handsome prince. But actually it turned her into a frog. Okay? I feel like I am going to change you into becoming like me. The actual correct thing is that when Miss Piggy kissed the frog, she became a frog. Okay? That you have to become the frog in empathizing. Understand what it's like. I can't make you me. How many of us are trying to make the other person me? You need to understand life in this framework. I'm trying to make you be just like me. There's times where Sherry is very good at, she knows the lyrics of songs, and she knows, I'm like, Sherry, what's that song? Him. And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, Sherry, you know every song. Him. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm so annoyed. You have to know what is in my mind. We're not going to sleep tonight until you tell me the name of the song, because we're going to Google it, and I need to know the name of the song. And she's like, looking at me like, you're a crazy person, okay? I don't know the words. I make up my own. As I'm walking through the house, I'm singing my own lyrics to any tune, right? Coptic tunes, Christmas songs. Like, I have my own lyrics for everything. How many times are we thinking about that? How could you not know that? I'm thinking, Sherry, how do you not know this song? I don't know this. I don't know what you're talking about. You're not singing it right, I'm sure. Okay? Be careful of this. You're thinking, how can they not know that? You say, okay, how can I begin to show them? And how can I try to understand? How can I get into their shoes to be able to understand them? You see, marriage does not erase differences. It sanctifies them through love. St. Maximus the Confessor says a beautiful saying, love is the movement of the soul toward unity without confusion. Love is the movement of the soul. If you love your spouse, it is the movement of the soul towards unity without confusion. All right. Let's think about some of the benefits of trading places in kenosis and marriage. Often, criticism is, you always do this. You always do this. Complaining is saying, I don't know, complaining has like a negative connotation to it, but it's saying, I feel this. I'm going to try to tell you how I feel. I want you to try to be able to understand how I feel. I feel this. When you did this, this is how I felt. You say, well, you shouldn't have felt like that, but I did, okay? It's I felt. Be careful of this criticism. You always versus I feel. I feel frustrated when we are late versus you always make us late. Okay? Who makes us late? Who makes us late? Don't say it. Don't say it. Husbands, if you want to have a good night tonight, don't say it. It also eliminates nagging. Trading places eliminates nagging. Little minor annoyances aren't the stuff that create divorces, but they dull our love. It's these little, not realizing how our nagging feels, and you'd be surprised how it feels when you put yourself in their shoes. Sometimes when you're nagging, you're bugging them all the time. Hey, you pick up your shoes. Hey, go get your shirt. Hey, clean the dishes. Hey, you're late. Hey, take out the trash. You forgot to take the kids' lunch. The nagging, you're always bugging them. Okay? This nagging, be careful of it. Imagine if you hear that. Let's say somebody is nagging the other. Always nagging, nagging, nagging. Go, and I'm going to start saying the same things you said. Well, you left the garage open and the car unlocked and the keys in the whatever. And they're like, can you stop criticizing me? It doesn't feel good, does it? Nagging really dulls your love. It makes your love become very, very dull. And so when you enter into somebody's practice, rewarding good behaviors. You walk into a sink and the dishes are up to the... Honey, do you remember when you moved on? It was on the floor, and I thank God you didn't trip. Because I prayed for it, and then I realized that I'm going to take that. I don't want you to get hurt. I just want you to pick up the shirt, okay? That I want you to reward good behavior. And then infuse your marriage with grace. Infuse your marriage with grace. Experiences of God can never be planned or achieved. What does that mean? How many times do husband or wife say, okay, husband wants to be intimate, okay? And because one of the kids was crying 3 hours ago, I'm too tired. Because the washing the dishes took too long, I'm not in the mood. Because the alarm went off 5 minutes too early, I don't want to, okay? But I want you to think about the husband is thinking like, okay, how do the stars have to be aligned for this to happen? What perfect day has to happen for us to be connected, okay? What about the stars are not aligned, I don't feel good, I'm a little bit tired, but I know that you would love to connect tonight. Infuse grace. The stars do not have to be aligned perfectly in the solar system for us to be able to connect. And so this is one, but there's also other areas in which that you can infuse grace towards your wife, understanding what she's carrying emotionally. If her kids are not doing good on their exams, she's a mess. He's like, all right, little Johnny, get to your room and start studying. She's thinking, what's going to happen? And is he ever going to get a job? Is he going to be homeless? Is he going to get married? Right? He's going to like know how to not run a car. Like he does not do anything, okay? The mom is taking it in very, very, very deeply. Infuse marriage with grace. Replace condemnation with undeserved love. Remember, there was a birthday party. There was a birthday party where a husband was bringing a cake, okay? They said, honey, go to Costco, pick up the cake, and bring it to the birthday party. Husband goes, puts it in the wrong place in the car, steps on the brakes, the cake falls. What is he thinking? I am a dead man, okay? Gets to the birthday party, the cake is not together. Brings the cake out, and the wife is about to go crazy on him, okay? There was another wife that knows how this woman is feeling. And the other wife at the party is like, oh my gosh, you got one of those earthquake cakes? And then the wife was like, what are you talking about? She's like, the newest type of cake. It's an earthquake cake. Like, it looks like it's been through an earthquake. Those are the coolest cakes. And so the kids are like, earthquake cake! Earthquake cake! And like, this lovely wife, the second wife, the guest, saved the day with the earthquake cake. As opposed to, you idiot! I gave you one thing. I took care of the balloons and the plates and the food and I took care of everything. You just had to pick up the cake. You brought me an earthquake cake? Earthquake cake is the way to go. It's the way to go. The more we practice empathy, the more likely grace will infuse into our relationship. Set aside your own agenda. Know your agenda. You're trying to change your spouse to do something. There's a thing called a pregnancy simulator that like a man can go in this pregnancy simulator and kind of feel what it's like to be pregnant, okay? And so it's this concept of knowing what condition your spouse is in. So I want you to imagine that you, okay, for the men, you don't know what it's like to be, again, having the kids go like, Mommy, you don't understand what it's like to be on her cycle for 3.5 weeks out of the month, right? Like, you don't understand what it's like to be, like, in that feeling. She's constantly, like, just uncomfortable. Her body's hurting. She's achy. She's moody. You don't understand that. Try to realize that you're trying to change your spouse to do something versus know the condition that they're in. Offer an agendaless presence. When you empty yourself of your need to change another person, the things that irritate you about them have the opportunity to become the things that endear you to them. Think about the way that your wife or husband makes a type of food, that you try to change everything. How many of you everybody makes something different. Like one person makes salmon with salty seasoning, another one will mix it with pecan syrup, okay? And you're like, why did you make it sweet this time? Why can't we have it like the salty, like the way I usually make it? The kids like that way. It's okay. Let her do her way. Or let him do his way. If it's his turn, let him. I don't have an agenda. I want you to do things. I want you to try it as well. Some of us, women, because we're so, we care about every hair on our children's heads. We want everything just to be, I know what my kids are feeling, I know what they think, I know what they like, I know what they want. You don't know anything, you just pay the bills, okay? Sometimes I have to say, no, I want him to be able to also feel like he can make decisions for the kids as well. That he's able to connect. I don't have an agenda, I want you to also experience. And the same thing for the husband. He's saying, I want you to be able to be free in this. I don't want to control you. Okay, when you go shopping, don't buy the $30 sweatpants, buy the $20, go to this store. Let her figure, just give her a budget, let her figure it out. Let her try to take care of the things that she knows how to do. We always we have an agenda. You got to do it this way, and you got to do it that way. That is not empathy. Now, the cross at the center of our marriage. Kenosis always leads to the cross, but the cross always leads to resurrection. In marriage, there will be moments where empathy costs you pride, comfort, or the need to be right. Empathy is not cheap. There's a cross in marriage. And you have to practice it, especially when we're fasting. We're telling ourselves to deny ourselves of things. Deny yourself of the need to say something. Bite your tongue. Give them grace. You don't need to say something every time. Swallow your pride. Every time you choose to enter your spouse's pain, rather than protect your ego, Christ is revealed. Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the life of Christ. 2 more things. Marriage becomes a path to holiness when spouses stop asking this: who is right? And begin asking, how can I love you from inside your experience? How do you want me to love you? Anybody ever asked that? How do you want to be loved? Well, I don't know how to love that way. I don't know how to do that. I'm not a words person, or I'm not a touchy-feely person, or I'm not a... No. How do you want to be loved? Can I enter into your existence and say, how do you want to be? What does it mean to you to be loved? And lastly, kenosis in marriage is not heroic, once-in-a-lifetime sacrifice. You're going to leave this meeting, and you're going to go wash the dishes, or you're going to go and put on the pregnancy simulator. You're going to do whatever, okay? It's not it's a daily, quiet, unseen trading of places. Every day. The true spiritual life is every day. Every day I want to feel what you're feeling. Imagine if she sensed, or he sensed, that every day you really want to understand how I feel, and every day you're trying to be close to me to understand that. How close are we going to get? How beautiful is that going to make our connection when you really are stretching yourself to try to understand where I'm at? It's not about putting yourself in someone else's shoes, but about understanding that their feet don't walk the same way that you do. Okay? Don't try to change them. May God grant us a true spiritual kenosis in our marriages, a self-emptying. That is the way of Christ. And glory be to God forever.